Previously on this channel, we brought you how Georgia's secondary got carved up by Alabama in the SEC championship. This is a part 2 of our look at Georgia's defense against Alabama's offense, focusing a bit more on the line of scrimmage and what Alabama did in pass protection, what Alabama did in its running game. Though it wasn't as explosive as maybe some previous Alabama teams, it was effective. And Brent, I think a lot of people want to know, how did Georgia's defensive line not control this game more than it did? That's what we're here to explain. You're Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne Young. We're with UGAsports.com. As I get my screen set up for us to do this film review, we have 11 clips that we want to share with you guys. Why don't you just kind of begin and set the table for what we're looking for with Georgia's defensive line here?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, a lot of it is just straight up assignment, execution, run fits. That, by the way, I don't know that we've seen at this magnitude all season. To me, it's shocking a lot of times when you see Georgia's defense, misfit a running play. But we saw this and saw him looking lost on a few occasions. There's a couple other plays that, hey, where you need the KYP, know your personnel, and know who you're going against. And then lastly, sometimes just the biggest thing, when you have major play opportunities, big play opportunities, you have to make them. And the last two play, at least one of the last two plays are going to be that in a big way.
So we'll start here. Again, we have 11 plays, the first 4 Alabama running plays, and we'll show you what happened here. Brent, confirm to me, you see the arrow pointing to Jalen Carter?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. Once I share my whole screen, I can't see what Brent sees on our software. So Jalen Carter is an important piece of what I saw in the review of the game, and you can verify on your end. But Alabama did, I thought, a really good job of scheming to make sure that he was protected or pushing him out of the play, more effective than I've ever seen another team do that against him.
Yeah, and it's, he's a run force. Him and Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, like, you have to account for those guys in some way. And what Alabama did was, much like really the evolution, the starting of the spread running game was like with Rich Rod at West Virginia. It was spread to run, and that's what Alabama did. And I tweeted this out actually a little earlier, but they had 6 running plays of 10 or more yards against Clemson, Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee combined. Those 4 games, Georgia gave up 3 10-plus yard runs. So it's not like Alabama went to the running game and used it effectively. No, we know that Bryce Young did his thing to the tune of 400-plus, and all the big plays came in the passing game. But when they went to the running game, they were able to get some timely, bigger plays, some obviously with Bryce's legs, that he was able to scramble and get some running plays. But still yet, there was just things from their defensive standpoint, and like play 1 right here, where it's just like, okay, what are we doing? Robinson off left tackle. And it goes back to a couple things with this play is, one, your initial alignment. That's on the edge. You have Tramel Walthour and William Poole on the right, or the right defense's right, the offense's left edge. And what's interesting with Walthour, I think he thinks Evan Neal at left tackle is going to engage him, and he doesn't. So he gets off upfield a little bit, caught off guard, pushed out of the play. William Poole drops out of the play, drops into more of a coverage realm, and it's almost like, hey, Georgia's thinking this is a pass, and now he's completely got his back turned, and the guy's running right at him, and so is Evan Neal running right at him.
Which is not anything that you want.
No, you don't want that at all. That's not fun, especially if you're William Poole. And you get an explosive running play. But the biggest question mark of this play to me is, all right, Channing Tindall, right inside linebacker? Is it, hey, this you thought 100% was a pass because he initially looks out left? Oh, they're running right. And that's right where, in essence, that linebacker should be filling that gap. So from a run fit standpoint, again, it's just Bama being able now. And obviously some of these running plays you're going to see are a little bit later in the game, but still yet, hey, you're trying to get off the field and get the ball back to your offense to get a chance, and you got to be able to make these stops in the running game. It's not like it's not like they did anything great, but they did it effectively when they wanted to.
Because of the missteps from Tindall and Poole, I circled Jalen Carter at the very beginning. The only chance that Georgia has to stop this play is if Carter gets him from the back end before the line of scrimmage. Really hard to do. He's done it before, but that was the only shot.
Yep, and then once he breaks that through, there's no linebacker to fill the gap. There's no there, and then move. There you go. Moving on, 10+ yard running play for Alabama.
Got a motion man here, constantly the case for Alabama on the second play we're looking at.
And this is one where, yes, very much so. They use motion as well as anyone. And by the way, are we showing some sort of massive dynamic running play? No. But what we're showing you here is look at 7, 95, and 95 and 99 in the middle, literally in the same spot. All because of one, the blocking, two, the way they stunted, it almost looked like at the beginning of the play, like Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis were going into the same gap because Devontae's there trying to beat his man. Jordan's kind of coming into that same gap, and what you have because of the pile that's created, Quay Walker gets knocked to the ground, and the right guard is able to come off of that block of Quay and then get Nakobe Dean, who's filling the gap and scraping into the hole. Again, not something that's a big deal, but it's 7, 8 yard running play when otherwise typically Georgia is, got guys in relatively every gap. It's very hard to run, and you're getting 2, 3 at best.
Bryce Young's not a runner, but just the fake of it, Trayvon Walker has to respect that, right? Make him carry the ball, I think. Make him keep
that's
it
what's going to say. That's what's going to be interesting how they play the second, or if they get a chance to rematch against them in the national championship, is because we had talked about this beforehand when we previewed the game. He had negative yards rushing on design runs. He had no design runs in this game. Everything was come off of a scramble. So it's one of those things where, especially if the congestion is there where that lineman cannot come, but still yet he's pulling that and they're going out the backside to throw the ball, not necessarily to run it. But still yet again, this is what, and by the way, all of these things, this is what a passing game that you're afraid of does to you. Your thought is, hey, they're going to throw, and then you get a little gash in the running game, and that what it does is it allows them to be efficient and it allows them to keep the ball.
Good effort on that play from Nakobe Dean to stick with it kind of through the congestion. He did help with that tackle. Solid game from Nakobe. He had we'll see later on a little bit. Not quite the cleanest angles of his career, but obviously still a really good player. Third play we have here, we've got Robert Beale and Quay Walker. Those are the ones that caught my eye here.
Very much so. Spot on with. And what you see here is this is something I actually wrote about after the Georgia Tech game, where this split zone action that, where 81 is coming across the formation to the right. And oftentimes what you see with that within the running game for a lot of teams is that's almost and Georgia's too, by the way, when Georgia does this, it's almost a design cut back play where the line works left and zones left and pushes everybody left. And then the running back cuts off of that block of 81. However, what more and more teams are doing both in the NFL and then also Alabama is they're running outside zone or in an outside zone track when that guy is coming back to the other side. Because what does it do? And like you said, it's Robert Beale and it's Quay Walker. Both of them take false steps, especially Beale initially. Quay Walker's more of he just gets a lean on his left leg a little bit more so. But when you do things like that from a motion standpoint, and then you have you go against tendencies, you go against sort of what you normally do, and you get those false steps, and now you've got Evan Neal locked on Robert Beale. That's bad news for Georgia. That's bad news for any defensive end. And again, you're getting very efficient 6, 7 yard running play on early downs, and that's it's one of those things where both Nolan Smith and Robert Beale, they're giving up 60, 70 pounds, at least, if not more, to the tackles for Alabama.
These dudes are big guys.
Yes, they were big and they were athletic and they did their job. It wasn't like 74 who couldn't, didn't look like he knew his left from his right for Alabama against Auburn.
Now, Alabama was not perfect on this next play. This is the fourth running play that we're going to show you. Nakobe Dean was the focus here for me. I kind of mentioned this a second ago. So we'll play this for you. 70 left guard. Tries a little chip here, kind of gets a little too far upfield. Doesn't really pose an issue to Nakobe. So Nakobe just has to choose a gap here or a gap around here.
And ideally, he's filling the gap that is his, the inside gap, because you technically think you should. have the edge set by the right defensive end. Now, this is something that we've discussed at length. Hey, what's Georgia going to do? Who's going to replace Adam Anderson? And we talked about Channing Tindall playing on the edge a lot more. And this is what you get. You got a guy who's, if he's on the edge, he's thinking, all right, I'm coming as a pass rusher. And he takes an inside step, boom, and now is eaten alive by Evan Neal and is out of the play. So, typically maybe that's, it's just not something he's done a lot of. And obviously he's giving up, he might be giving up like 80 to 90 to Neal. But
I'm going to stop this about halfway through.
Right there. Nakobe's filling the gap right there where he should be. And because of the edge not being set, there you go. You got a big play and moving on along the road here.
Because if you just looked at this still play as it is, the still frame as it is, you'd say, oh yeah, Georgia made that tackle, probably right there on the logo.
Yep.
And then it didn't happen.
And Trey Sanders, good for him. He hadn't been able to play a bunch. He was had a bad injury, got back to it, and it was their lone with Robinson playing in the game. He was one of their two scholarship running backs. But still, yet again, it's not so much about the fact that they dominated in the run game, and we're not showing you this to be like, oh, the Alabama dominated the running game. We know they didn't. It's about when they do run it. For me personally, I went into this game thinking Alabama would, if they got more than 25 or 30 yards rushing, or more than 50 yards rushing, that they would have taken that all day, every day. That I thought it was going to be something where Bryce was going to have to throw it even more than he actually did. But when they did run the ball, they had positive plays, and like we said earlier, they had 6 running plays of over 10 yards. And there you go. By the way, I don't know that he's holding. He's just a lot bigger and stronger than Channing Tindall.
One thing that Alabama did too was they got Georgia's defense tired early in this game. Not a lot of substitutions, keeping guys in the field. Georgia's offense didn't help by not staying on the field, and it showed up. This is later in the game when Trey Sanders got more carries. I want you to watch Nolan Smith with the backside pursuit here. I'm not saying you could have made this play, but I'm just saying if you're a coach, you're not going to like seeing this effort.
It's something we'll look at a little. Game. It's something we'll look at a little later on a way more important play.
Yes, absolutely. Just kind of setting the table. We try to find trends when we rewatch these. Now we move into pass protection here. And so this is going to be a 4-man rush. So Alabama has 5 blockers. And
the thing about this play is this is the catch. This is 2nd and 8 on the second drive of the game. The biggest thing to me to watch is the left guard. The guy who Devontae Wyatt is crossing his face. Like, stop it. Let's see if we get to right about as we go through the play right there. Let's see. A little bit more. Right there. That left guard is 100% certain that Devontae Wyatt is not trying to get by him. They knew, like, this is one of the things where Alabama was very prepared for how Georgia was going to rush. The instant that Walker is coming, sort of pulling back of there, he knows that Devontae Wyatt is wrapping around and setting an edge, not trying to beat him. Because if Devontae Wyatt were just strictly rushing on this play and not, playing their scheme, he would go right off that left guard's left shoulder and go right into the quarterback's face. But that's just, you watch their interior guys, and you see a lot of this where their hands are, back and forth because they're looking to just kind of play defense and pass off guys, being prepared for what it is that Alabama did.
And we have to say, hell of a throw from Bryce Young here.
Yes, he's got late pressure in his face, anticipating it, puts it away. Now, the other thing with this play, and we didn't show the wide angle of this mainly because I wanted to show the protection. But if you go about right a little bit further down, you see a hand right there. On the bottom left of the screen, you see a hand sticking out. And that is...
Hold on. Let me move my cursor.
Move the cursor. There we go. Right there. So that is Lewis Seen's hand. And he's saying that they're in zone coverage, and he's saying, hey, crossing route. But the interesting part about this with this play is if you see the wide angle of this play, there are 0 threats to him near him. And and as I rewatched this, and even watching it live, I remember watching him and thinking, why are you not having your eyes on the quarterback and jumping this ball and jumping into this throwing lane and either deflecting it 1 or picking it 2? Because right when he puts his hand there are no threats to him. They're all down the field. They're all behind him. So it should be, hey, eyes finding the next threat, because if one is going away from me, more often than not, somebody is coming to me. And it's one where, again, chance to possibly make a play, and they don't make it. Alabama gets a first down. Now, I think they eventually punted on that drive, but still yet little plays here, and then them being insanely prepared for how Georgia was going to rush the passer.
So that's a 4-man pressure. What happened when Georgia brought a little more heat? First thing I'll point out, even before we play this, big old gap of space right here.
Yep. And it's one of the things that Georgia's consistently done, that Alabama was prepared for, that somebody's coming there, whether you realize it or not. It's just a matter of who. And this is one of the things I think that Georgia did as the game went on a little later. And this is, by the way, this is an incompletion. It's still a clean pocket, and they still actually protect it. But it's also something we talked about the other day in the video we did a couple days ago. Alabama's strategy with their backs and the people that they had helping protection. Cutting. Like you see Brian Robinson coming across there low. And when you're a rusher and you get guys attacking your knees and putting their shoulder pads right at your knees, slows you down just a little bit each time. Just a little bit each time, because that guy's coming at my knees. You take a little false step. You don't go as just fast as you possibly can. And they're really the first team that has done that to Georgia all season.
Right guard does a really good job of getting in Jalen Carter's way and putting him out of the play and getting him off balance as well. Because with Robinson coming across the formation, there could be a little leverage on this side, on Alabama's right side of its offensive line, for someone to sneak in there at the last second and disrupt Bryce Young. Didn't happen because of good offensive line play.
Yep. And this is an incompletion, but it's still a clean pocket. He's still throwing rhythm, just gets a little bit over the head of the receiver. So, again, their strategy, and we talked about this the other day, you could tell they practiced for the last month probably to, hey, this is how Georgia's going to rush the passer. And I think that's a lot of it. What made Auburn very successful. One, Auburn has
they didn't practice for them.
Auburn has dudes on the defensive line.
Yeah.
But Auburn's is just, I'm going to beat that man. Now, granted, it was 2 different players, the center and the right. Those guys were different players for Alabama, but they're just like, hey, I'm going to beat this man and go figure out a way to get to the quarterback. Georgia doesn't do that.
Other 2 things that helped Auburn. Jamison Williams got ejected for targeting. Obviously, that's a game changer. And they have Roger McCreary, who's better than any corner that Georgia has.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. And speaking of Jamison Williams going down, these next 2 plays are later in the game when Mechie is out of the game. And this is one of the things where this is 100% to me a KYP. Know your personnel. Know who's in the game and know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get number 1 the ball in any way they can.
In space.
Especially in space. And him being lined up as the sort of almost offset tight end in a way right there, he's not there just because he's going to go block the edge. He's 100% there, not because he's going to block the edge. He's coming around and either one giving a fake, and Georgia actually runs a sort of a run blitz or blitz cross dog with the backers on this play, and even if they'd given the run, they probably would have had a big play. But still, yet hey, knowing your personnel, knowing who they're trying to get the ball to. The other thing with this, and this is one was kind of curious to me, and maybe it was because of how the game was going. But Georgia's secondary, oftentimes, when they drop back into zone coverage, and the person to spotlight and watch here is Keeley Ringo. When you look at when he makes a move forward versus when Bryce Young releases the ball. I actually think it's maybe Williams gets the ball and takes a step or 2 before he actually realizes what's going on.
He's just now shifted his weight to kind of begin this way. And by that point, Jamison is already leaning forward going downfield.
Because that boy fast. And you've got to see that a little earlier, especially if you're in zone coverage and your eyes are sort of, and I'm sure with the way he's taught, with the way he opens up with his shoulders, his right shoulder towards the deep part of the field, you've got one eye on the receiver, you've got one eye in the backfield, kind of seeing all of what's going on in front of you, and he just doesn't see it, and he sees it late, and by the time he's there, all right, quick 7-8 yard gain, and they get their guys the ball in space and let them go be fast and go be athletes.
The only thing you can say is that, like, once he realizes it, at least he takes the best path to say, I'm going to cover the outside because I know I have help on the inside.
Yeah, and the other thing is, William Poole in this has got a KYP. You got to know who that dude is. Number one is a freak show fast guy. You're not going to get there trying to make an inside. You have inside leverage on 18 at the start of the play. You're inside of him. If you go back to the snap of that play, looking at William Poole in the slot. Right there, he's that Bolden has an angle on him to block him. That's fine, but fight to the outside, rip through, fight to the outside. Don't try to go inside, because guess what? Williams is already by you by the time you take a step inside. By the time he takes one step inside by you, there's no chance to make that play.
Not at all. And see, here's the thing with Alabama. Yes, Alabama can throw the deep pass. We saw it a lot in this game. Alabama also throws the ball either at or behind the line of scrimmage almost as much as any team I see. It's just that once the receivers get it, they run a long way.
Yes, and because they're designing to get those guys touches. They're saying, hey, those are our two best players, and they are by a long shot. Now it's just one best player, by the way, with Mechie out. Mm-hmm. But hey, we're going to find ways to get our best players the ball. And this is, by the way, this is the first play of the second half. So the drive, this is like 3 plays before the big long touchdown to Williams. Mechie's out of the game. What do you think they're doing? They're finding a way to get Williams the ball. Hey, this is our guy. This is our dude. Georgia adjusts, a little bit out with the 2x2 formation. And, you're just, yes, it's 10 yard, 8, 9, 10 yard gain. It's not that big a deal, but it's being insanely efficient. Like, that's a running play for them. And the biggest thing was the instant, I think it's Darion Kendrick, by the way, who's trailing him in this. The instant he goes behind everybody, he's beat. He's not catching that dude. He's too fast. And this is something I bet you see adjust if they are doing that, kind of true trailing or man on Williams, and he's going across the formation. I bet you see them come more of on a straight line.
So you're saying he needs to come in between the linemen and the linebackers
if he wants to have a chance to catch him, if he's going to get the ball, yeah. Because the instant he takes that angle, like he's at best making a play on the ball at, say, 8 yards. This isn't like what is it? Last year when we were watching this against Auburn, when Tyson Campbell came across the formation on the goal line and made the play for no gain because Tyson Campbell had 4.3, 4.4, 4.3 speed. Kendrick's not that. He's just got to, he's got to make a diving attempt at a tackle there. If he's through there and if he's on, say, the 27 yard line, 28 yard line, when the ball is snapped, he's got a much better shot of making that play.
And if you want to see a brutal block, focus your eyes right here. I mean, This is about as bad as it gets.
That's one of those where, what have we typically seen? We've typically seen Latavius Brini right there being physical, staying with outside leverage, and making plays in that. So, ouch.
That's video that Alabama will be harping. I'm surprised I haven't seen Alabama fans pull that one yet for social media. I would have done that if I were reporting on Alabama. Okay, so we move on. What happens when Georgia begins to get a little pressure? Alabama takes deep shots, right? And that's one of the things we saw all game long. What'd you see on this particular play?
This is another example of KYP. The dude that just went out in motion right there from the backfield, number 12. So his name, I looked it up. I couldn't remember. Is Christian Leary.
Which is a good sign for Georgia if you have to look up the name of the guy that's on the field.
Right. So he had just started playing. He's a freshman. Just started playing against New Mexico State, and because of their running back injuries, they started to play him in the backfield a little bit. But he has 2 targets on the season, with 2 catches, 4 yards. Guess what they're doing to motion him out there? Not to throw him the ball. Guess who's right beside him though? That would be Mr. Mechie, who they are trying to throw the ball to. And what's interesting here is Georgia is in kind of they're in zone. They're in a zone, kind of quarters coverage, where Ringo has his, Jackson has his, and then you have Smith and DK on the backside. Lost the screen there for a sec. I think Dayne froze up. All right, come on, Dayne. Come back.
I did.
There you go. There you go. He's back.
Apologies for the internet blip. I was looking up the name of other Alabama players I didn't know.
But they're in a quarters coverage here, and the reason you think, all right, they're in zone is because Ringo goes to the outside. If they're in true man and that's a back out of the backfield, Jackson's going to go out there and cover him. But now what do you have? You have Mechie on Dan Jackson, and that's 100% the matchup they want. As soon as they see this,
Alabama.
Bryce knows exactly where he's going with the ball. By the way, this is an insanely good throw. This isn't just and this has happened, folks like, hey, why didn't Dan Jackson play more? As soon as that play happened, he didn't play. I don't know that he played the rest of the game after that, or much the rest of the game after that play, because they were going to find ways to target him. And he gets his hip turn there. He's sprinting ahead. It's just tough. And by the way, that ball is just on the money, however many yards down the field it is. But this is one of the things that I think in the championship game, if they happen to see each other again in the national championship, that knowing the personnel and knowing what they're trying to do to you. I mean, this is something we tell 12 and 13-year-old kids all the time. Hey, that guy's there for a reason. Or who do you think they're trying to get the ball to here?
Well, the funny part on this one is that Mr. Running Back down here that has never played except for New Mexico State, he almost runs Ringo right into the play to break it up.
Yes, 100%.
He almost helps Georgia, but you're right. That throw is impeccable.
Yep. And if I was shocked the running back didn't do more of a type hitch route to keep Ringo down there, but that's 3 straight plays. Know your personnel, know what they're trying to do to you, and know who they're trying to get the ball to. And which on the bright side for Georgia, it won't be Mechie if they see him again.
And we keep saying Bryce Young, not a runner. That's not his game. He can scramble. He does extend plays. That's what I'm going to show you in our last 2 plays before we wrap up here. And here we go.
The absolute play of the game. This is the absolute, to me, play of the game, because it turned, if Georgia makes this play, because it was there to be made, if they make this play, it's a whole different ball game.
So we know this is the fumble. This is a tie game at this point. It's 17-17. By the time Georgia's offense got a meaningful snap after this, we're down by 14 points.
Yep, it's 31-17, completely different game. So 2 things to watch on this that to focus particularly on. One is you have, and you pointed this out before we went rolling, is you have Devontae Wyatt kind of as the spy.
We saw this with Jalen Carter in our previous episode. Defensive lineman just kind of standing up, being a spy, something that I haven't seen much all year.
No, and it's very true, especially from those guys. And he obviously, gets his ankles turned a little bit, unfortunately for him, but makes a phenomenal play after he gets it, whoop, right there. Oh, but look at the get up real quick, hustle, and then knock the ball out. But please just, all right, run it back from the beginning and focus. And if you're watching this, watch Nolan Smith at the right defensive end. And this is one of the plays for me where if you're Nolan Smith, you don't want to be in film study this week for this play. You just don't. Because right about there, I'm going about 60%. And that just hurts. So
that's the what could have been play.
Yes. And so when you think about the math of that play, and I had talked about this play earlier, and one of my fellow cohorts at PFF tweeted out that Alabama's win probability percentage at this point was 71%. If Georgia gets this fumble, it goes back down to 51%, i.e., it's a coin flip game. Because you think about this, you get that fumble, and maybe you go down and get a field goal, and it's 20-17.5. Maybe you just kneel it. Who knows? Who cares? 17-17.5. Now you've got no Mechie, because Mechie hurts it. That's, by the way, this is the play he tears his ACL on. That's him laying on the ground there. So, you got that. And even if the Williams play does happen to open the second half, now it's 24-17. You still are able to play how you want to play the game. But they don't get this fumble. Bryce, scores on the scramble that we showed the other day, a couple plays later, then the touchdown to open the half, ball game. Because now you're not playing the style of game that you want to play the rest of the game.
Devontae Wyatt still needs to put this on his NFL draft film because just when effort. He falls down like that and gets back up. So Jim Donnan told me this. He said, I wanted to see how quick players can get off the ground. It tells me how good of an athlete they are.
Yep.
And for a guy his size to spring back up and continue sprinting down the field, that's impressive. Now, I did hear some fans say he needed to kind of rather than reach for the ball, just lay on Bryce Young.
Oh, 100%.
Keep that hand away from the ball.
100%. But, and that's, by the way,
I would have told – get ball. I understand.
Yeah, I get it too. But, it's one of those things where I know if I were a coach and I'm coaching them and the defensive line, anybody that's going to tackle anybody that tackles Bryce Young, I would say anyone that tackles Bryce Young and he goes to the ground and especially you're 270 plus pounds, land on him and lay on him. Get very comfortable. Make him feel you. Have
a cup of coffee. It's fine.
Yes.
Final play we want to show you here.
That play. That was that play. It happened right in front of me when I was watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, you had to get that. But yeah, the final play is just sometimes it's a couple things. One, it's you got to make the play when you have the opportunity. And two, sometimes that guy is just better. And that play right there was just, you can't teach that. You can't coach that. You wouldn't
coach it if you could teach it.
No, not at all. But what you can coach, by the way, and what you can teach and can work on is the footwork in the pocket. And right there, boom, slide. All right, reset, boom, slide up. And then I got some Crisco on my legs, and Trayvon Walker, big time athlete, falls right off of me. That just shows you how strong Bryce is, that he didn't go down there when Trayvon Walker fought for him.
Well, and watch Trayvon's path here. I've got him circled on the screen, starting at the right defensive end. He has a lot to go through to even get to Bryce. You got to make the tackle when you get there, all that. But, relentless effort from Trayvon Walker in this play against a really good defensive or offensive tackle.
Yeah, and again, same thing we talked about earlier. You see offensive line with their hands out like this. They're not expecting to. They're looking for guys to come. They're not expecting to be rushed through them. They're expecting all of the wrapping that Georgia's doing. And I think, by the way, that is the one in terms of how they change outside of maybe bringing more 5- and 6-man pressures. That to me is the one thing that will change if this game happens to be the rematch in the national championship, is Georgia will turn those 4 guys loose if they are going to rush 4, they're going to turn them loose and just be like, okay, you guys on the edge, go rush the edge as best you can. You guys in the middle, just go beat the guy and cause havoc, cause chaos in some way. Because what they did here and what they consistently done all year to cause havoc with the wrapping and the games and the stunts that they did just didn't work. Alabama was prepared for it. They were more well coached in this game for that reason and that reason alone.
Well, know your personnel applies to your own team too. Jordan Davis is a tremendous athlete for a man his size. His quickest way to get in the backfield is going to be using his strength to go forward. It ain't going to be going around here.
Yep, and Alabama.
These guys in the middle. Now, maybe when you're playing against Charleston Southern, you can do all that stuff. But with these guys in the middle, you got to go straight at them.
I think, like I said, I think that's what you're gonna see. The second half, obviously, they've started bringing a lot more pressure. They blitzed is more than they have in any game, and I think that will go up in that second game. But man, that's you can't teach that play. That's he had his Heisman moment, and sometimes that dude's just better, and he was last weekend.
Let me catch up and see if there's any comments in here real fast.
I did see a Roll Tide somewhere.
That's fine.
So we got
Glad
some
you're
Bama fans
watching.
hanging out. Hey, sure.
Look,
I'm telling you how
we
good your
report
quarterback is.
we report on UGA, but we're not homers in the sense of like we're not going to acknowledge when a team beats you. UGA and Alabama absolutely did. M. Turner says the fumble was hard to watch.
It was. It just was. I mean, that's a massive play. You play him again, and you have to make those plays when those opportunities are there.
D-Man 430 says, I'm not a defensive expert, but 9 times out of 10, when Young is under pressure by a 4-man front, he evades or he makes a throw or at least a decent run. 5-man front gives him a lot of problems. I think Georgia realized that by the third quarter.
Hey, we even got a Notre Dame fan in the house telling us to beat the daggone Wolverines. The darn Wolverines there. There we go.
Hey, congrats on your head coach who's 35 with 6 kids. Just seeing that photo made me nervous.
I tell you what, you think about to have that many kids. I have half that many, so I know understand that. But that guy sounds like somebody you just want to play for.
Marcus Freeman seems awesome.
I mean,
he's going to be good at
gosh, he sounds like somebody you just want to die for and run through a wall for.
Flex Dog says, tell us what the hell Kirby was thinking with the defensive game plan. That's kind of what we were trying to illustrate here of what Georgia was trying to do, where Georgia's head was, what the strategy was. I really can't tell you other than maybe they were worried about Bryce Young extending plays so much that they thought that they needed to kind of keep a spy back a little more than they did. I'm telling you, this guy is not a pull it down and run guy unless that's the last option. He wants to hang out in that pocket and use his arm.
Yeah, and I think you're right in terms of strategy, especially early. It was, hey, we're going to do what we do. We're going to run our twists and stunts, keep them in the pocket, try to get our linebackers free on one of their guys. But guess what? They were prepared for it, and they were ready for it. And, they were able, because of that, they were able to get the matchups that they wanted.
Brent Bishop, do you think the secondary has this many issues if there's a healthy Chris Smith at star? I do not. I think there's still some problems to be had, but the solution may be Mechie being out as much as Chris Smith being healthy.
Yeah, and also what's interesting for me is if you're going to bring and blitz more and play more press man, even just straight man, is you've got to figure out who your 3 or 4 best cover guys are. And that might not be somebody who's played a whole lot this year. And we've talked about one like Kamari Lassiter, who's in his little time that we've seen from a coverage standpoint, looks like he could be somebody that covers. So that might be someone you see a little more of in that game if that does happen.
Daryl and Robert and a few others say you see them holding. You see them holding on the offensive line. It does, and Georgia's guys do it too. And when you're in the trenches, you are literally trained how to kind of hide the holding so you don't get called for it.
It happens on every play. Some more often than not, it's just not called.
Well, this was we appreciate all you guys watching this. We're going to keep doing these Film Don't Lies. We're going to shift over to offense. I think our game plan is tomorrow to do some offense. It'll pop up live on this channel. Maybe if I can get a heads up, I'll tweet it out. But if not, here's the cool thing about these. They're live for you on YouTube anytime you want to go check them out. That's why we're kind of changed the format of Film Don't Lie. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to see more of our content and the things that are happening at ugasports.com. We've got a big team and a lot of talented people, so you need to make sure you are subscribed to this YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's just my name, @Dayne Young. Brent, you recently changed your handle, and by recently I mean like within the last 6 months. So if you want to give the handle, because I almost gave your old one.
Yeah, it's just @Brent Rollins and then PhD at the end, because I'm one of those doctors who's not a real doctor kind of doctor.
You're a doctor. You're a doctor.
Or as my wife says, I'm not that kind of doctor.
I'm not coming to you if I'm having a heart attack, but you're still a doctor. That's fine. Thanks everyone for watching these. We'll continue to do it. And thanks to ugasports.com for making this happen. Y'all have a good night, and we will see you next time.